Welcome everyone to the major exploration event in the School of Communication today. My name is Tara Flacker. I'm the Senior Academic Advisor here. And we're really excited to be able to share with you someone from each of the division to walk you through the programming, explore the major a little bit. This is a great avenue for people to sort of take a look at all of the things that the School of Communication offers and everything that you can explore and be a part of. I've heard from lots of students over time that they know they want to study communication, but they don't know exactly where they want to focus in and choose a major. So this event will be great for that, and we appreciate you joining us. Let me just introduce quickly who's in the room today. If you could just give a little wave when you are introduced. First, we have our Assistant Dean, Anna Maria Julio Shields. Wave. Okay. Kylie Sigler, Academic Advisor. Jesse Nelson, Academic Advisor. Blake Harris, our Academic Program Assistant. And Samara Akbar, our director. So if you come into the advising office, that's the core team. And from our faculty side, we have from Communication Studies, Adrienne Massanari. From Film and Media Arts, Claudia Myers. And from Photography, Lena Jaswal. And from Public Relations and Strategic Communication, Dina Inverso. So now we're going to go to some breakout rooms and see a little presentation and have some conversation, and then we'll come back together at the end to share with some questions and answers. Hopefully have the chance to hear from everyone in case you're wanting to hear a little bit from a couple of different people.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Massanari. I am with the Communication Studies Division at American. Super excited to tell you more about what we do in Comm Studies. And, I should say at the outset that I'm new to American and to the School of Communication as of this year. So I'm sure you have lots of questions that are very important and are going to be ably answered by some of the other people. But I will say that I will give you as much information as I have. Happy to talk more also if you have any questions individually that you'd like to ask me. You can find me on the SOC directory website as well. So Comm Studies, why would you want to major in Communication Studies? Well, one of the coolest things about Comm Studies, and the reason I actually decided to join the faculty here, was because of the faculty themselves. And we have so many amazing, really, really exceptional faculty who work in this really interesting intersection between media, technology, and democracy. And so that's kind of our focus in Comm Studies. It's not the only thing we do, but that is a huge kind of portion of what we, the kinds of classes we teach and the kinds of research that we are engaged in. What I can tell you about that means that you're getting sort of top tier people, professionals who are very much in tune with what's happening in the world of internet policy, for example, or copyright, or issues, what I work on sort of in issues around harassment and politicization online. You have people doing work in game studies, you have people doing work in journalism under the Comm Studies sort of rubric of that. So it's a pretty great place to have faculty who are really interested in and excited about what they're doing. And so you can see here a selection of pictures of us talking. And of course, we like to talk. We also write a lot of books. So we write and talk and give talks, and the books that we have are and articles and all kinds of stuff. That's just all to say, not hopefully you get a sense from, in general, the School of Communication has exceptional faculty across the board. I'm sort of biased though, also because I'm in Comm Studies. I love the fact that we are so engaged and interested in cutting edge issues. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what do I mean by this sort of intersection between media technology and democracy. Those are three big concepts that kind of get thrown around a lot. The things that we're very interested in, and you could see by the selection of titles and kinds of books that we write and the talks that we give, are kind of multifaceted. I will talk a little bit about my area of expertise. So I work a lot on what's called digital culture. I'm really interested in the sort of intersection of design of digital platforms, their governance, so the ways in which things like moderation and the politics of the platform are created, and then also the communities that sort of coalesce on those platforms. I write a lot, I've written a lot about Reddit as a platform specifically. So I'm really interested in this. Reddit has this very sort of unique culture. I wrote a book about that. I'm now working on another book related to sort of Silicon Valley and the rise of the alt-right and the ways in which platforms have sort of enabled harassment and extremist, sort of far-right politics worldwide. And so that's kind of my area of interest. I'm also deeply invested, and we have not only myself, but Aaron Steinreich, who's also on the faculty, in sort of issues of pop culture. His focus is more on also, in addition to copyright, he also does a lot of work on music culture. I teach, and I'm actually going to be teaching in the fall a class on popular culture. And so that class, sort of is interesting because it fits in this sort of weird area of media technology and democracy in ways that people don't necessarily know, right? So students come into it thinking like, we're just going to talk about Love Island, and we do talk about Love Island, but we talk about more about like the reason why are we so invested in, in sort of all of this popular culture? Why are we invested in celebrity culture? What does it say about, sort of issues of representation, about what we value, globally? There's all kinds of interesting ways to think about popular culture as having real resonance and importance. And it wouldn't be if, we wouldn't spend time talking about it if we didn't. So that's just a plug for my class. I also teach courses in in game studies. And so I'm very interested in video games as well. And so that's just to give you an idea, and I'm not the only person in the faculty who does that, but we have people doing everything from sort of analysis of big data, to copyright, to internet governance and the ways in which the infrastructure of the internet, why it matters, to remixing, digital culture, as I mentioned, and games. And so that kind of represents our broad areas of expertise. As far as what the major is in a nutshell, the great thing, sorry for my cat, or hello, that's my cat, is robust sort of ethical scholarship. And by this we mean, as a comm studies major, you are going to be well-versed in how to do research. This is incredibly important. This can apply to anything that you do from here on out after you leave AU. So the idea is that one of the things that I think probably most of us are very aware is that there's this huge crisis of disinformation and misinformation, and it's very difficult for people to understand sort of how to get good quality information and what that looks like. And so one of the things that you're going to be challenged to do, and we're excited to kind of share with you, is how do you do communication research? And so thinking about these issues, which are things that you can use if you decide you want to go and do, you get the opportunity to be like, do social media as a social media manager in a company or something like that. Like doing research will become something that you do every day. And so these are skills, both quantitative and qualitative skills, that you will be able to use and go forth and succeed. It will also encourage you to become really excellent at being communicating in various forms, right? So written, oral, and visually. We also are very much invested in sort of concrete skills, right? So here's a couple of classes, so writing for visual media, digital skills. There's a bunch of different classes. You can look at them on the website. So it's not like this is just a theory or research-based major. It's also very much concrete. And then we have this sort of, as I mentioned, this focus on media technology, democracy, and social impact. And I would also mention, this is a great place to mention sort of our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Runs the gamut in all the classes that we teach, right? So like in my classes in particular, I could speak to the fact that, that those themes come up all the time. We're always talking about sort of questions of representation in my pop culture class. Or if I'm teaching the digital media class, we talk about like sort of the issues of harassment or the ways in which, different populations are subject to kinds of harassment. And so those always kind of bring up issues of questions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, like who is participating online, who isn't participating online, and why. And so these are some of the classes. You can, again, see all of this on the website. But we also go places too. There's lots of really cool activities. One of the things that's great about having a really research engaged faculty is that we are always working on projects and excited and enthusiastic about having our students participate in those projects. So we have a number of kinds of different projects that happen a lot in DC and engage with the local community as well as abroad. And so this is just to say we do a lot of stuff and we go a lot of places. Another last thing that I wanted to mention about this and is in closing is just that one of the great things about the comm studies major is its flexibility. So we have this major that allows, that encourages you, requires you to have a minor or a second major outside of SOC, and that allows you to have this really cool flexible thing. So if you want to major in something else, in a political science or in sociology or whatever, you can do that and mix and match that with the comm studies degree. And we also have really great sort of track record with paid internships and jobs, right? So 98% of our students participate in an internship, which is incredibly high, and then 92% of the undergraduates are also employed after 6 months post-graduation and making good money. And you could see a whole list of all kinds of things. You could see that we have a really great kind of mixture of both nonprofit and private industry and, people working in various different, sort of industries. And that's, again, in part of this is the value of being a comm studies major is having those close ties to the faculty who are also very much invested and networked well. And so they will, so we have a whole sort of scaffolding to encourage and to help you expand your network sort of during your time at AU SOC and also after graduation. So with that very brief sort of presentation, I'm going to open it up to questions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome Amy Eisman, veteran journalist, editor, educator, and currently the division director for the journalism program, where she currently teaches reporting, ethics, and digital content. Previously, she led the Masters in Interactive Journalism, the Masters in Media Entrepreneurship, and the Writing for Communication classes in SOC. She also facilitated a school project which focused on the intersection of games and journalism. In 2015, she was named among the 100 Tech Titans in Digital Washington by Washingtonian Magazine. Eisman chairs the Online News Association's MJ Baer Fellowships, honoring rising digital journalists under 30, and judges the White House Correspondents Association Awards. I could tell you all the fabulous places she's worked, but I'll spare you that. Thank you, Amy, for being here. I'll turn things over to you to talk a little bit about the journalism division.
Great. Thank you, Anna Maria. That was really nice introduction, and I appreciate it. Hello to everybody who's interested in journalism. You have a place in my heart simply by sharing your interest with us. I'm talking to you at the end of February in 2022, and right now, half of me is watching what's happening in Ukraine and Russia because we are really driven by the news, and that's what journalism is about. How to get the right information to people so they can make the right decisions about the role of democracy. And it's playing out before us right now in quite an extraordinary way. To kind of set the mood for you of what journalism is about, I'm going to play a little video, and then afterwards I'll tell you a little bit about the program, and then be able to take some questions. So share screen. And I'm going to play this. Welcome to the nation's capital, where local news is national or even international. Our students have awesome opportunities to report on the critical issues of the day, all against the backdrop of journalism's role in democracy. Social justice, politics, deep investigations, policy, environment, data journalism, race, gender, and sexuality. You can follow your news dreams here, whether you want to be on air, in podcasts, on digital, or in newspapers. We focus on investigative journalism, multimedia storytelling, emerging media, hard news, and features across platforms. Our award-winning faculty teach from experience, building in media ethics and history and law into everything we discuss.
I don't think I teach any course that would be considered easy, but all of them I think are engaging. I see my role as a teacher as a motivator, and I feel an absolute obligation to have the students engaged in whatever it is I'm teaching.
Through a special practical course, we embed graduate students at the Washington Post on the investigative team working alongside the pros.
I think for what investigative journalists do, for what the journalism program does, for what the investigative reporting workshop does, is we gather facts and try to present the truth as we all know it in the most accurate, precise way. And to me, what else is more important in any kind of ostensible democracy than facts and truth?
Our state-of-the-art studios and equipment give you hands-on experience, whether you're shooting a newscast or building a site. Journalism students publish in award-winning campus media or land prestigious internships and work at networks and publications in DC and around the country.
I'm the moderator of the long-running American Forum series of special events programming here in the journalism program. My students and other students in our program and in SOC get to hear from and interact with and ask questions of some of the most interesting and impressive journalists of our time, from Yamiche Alcindor to Chuck Todd.
We tell students if you can report in Washington with its wall of lobbyists and spinners and advocates and politicians, you can report anywhere. At AU, students have a front row seat to history. Hello, everybody. Can you see me? Blake, give me a thumbs up if you can see me back in this. Okay, great. Happy to be back and talk to you a little bit more about what it means to be a journalism student today at American University. There probably is no better place than to study journalism in Washington at this time. As you know, and as you can see, we are right front and center at the front row seat of history. And I know it sounds a little bit like a cliche, but it's so entirely true. And as Chuck Lewis mentioned on that, our job is to talk about the closest we can get to the truth as we know it, the closest that we can get to the truth as we know it. And that's what we talk about with our students every single day. Broadly, we have two tracks in the journalism division. One is for journalism and one is for broadcast journalism. And the reason we have two tracks is because some of the skill sets, of course, you get a mix. Everybody gets to take courses across the two tracks, but the ones with the broadcast skills need a little bit more of in the broadcast newsroom with the cameras, in front of the cameras, behind the cameras, whereas the digital and text students in the main journalism program are really concentrating a little bit more on narrative and long form storytelling. But all of them, everybody has the same basic courses in writing and reporting, and everybody has a capstone on the way out. So let me tell you a little bit about the courses and what you would expect as a journalism student here. We report by doing. This isn't, you're not sitting in your classroom and somebody just telling you how to be a reporter. You're a reporter. As you know, we're living through at the moment a pandemic, and so our students are covering the pandemic. They're going to Capitol Hill. They're covering the agencies. They're covering the communities where all of the impact of public policy has what it does, the impact of public policy on local communities. Washington, as you know, for those of you interested in journalism, is a fairly healthy media market. The area offers more opportunities for internships and jobs than many places across the country. As a matter of fact, our students routinely have internships at top news organizations in town. I can't say them all. You saw a slide with them on it, but it would be including CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Vox, Washington Post, Politico, PBS, USA Today, WAMU, WTOP, NBC4, Fox 5, WUSA, and a host of other organizations, both profit and nonprofit. We have a lot of students who are definitely interested in the nonprofit route, which is great because a lot of nonprofits are putting emphasis into local news, such as Report for America, where you can go for a year after you finish school. Throughout all our courses, our classes and our faculty weave diversity and inclusion into just about everything that we do. We have one program that we have partnered with Maynard Institute and Politico, where students from actually outside the school and one student from the school come in and learn how to build a more diverse political reporting landscape. We have courses like Dr. Sherry Williams, who's an expert on race, community, and ethnic reporting. She does this extraordinary job of teaming up her students with publications and then gets them all published, as she did 1 year with Teen Vogue and 1 year with The Nation magazine. An amazing experience to be an undergrad at AU and to be published in one of those places. And the content that she did at the time were either election or news oriented. So she focused one of those on the intersection of race and politics. So of course, with Dr. Sherry Williams, and those themes come up in all of our classes. The journalism faculty that you would be having are award-winning, and they're correspondents and producers and reporters, and a lot of them are still doing a lot of the work now. They come from organizations such as the Los Angeles Times, USA Today, Washington Post, Fox, CBS 60 Minutes. We have many of them who are authors, and that's not even talking about the adjunct faculty. The adjunct faculty could be, covering the White House in the morning and teaching a class in the afternoon. They could be doing data journalism at the Washington Post in the morning and teaching your data journalism class in the afternoon. They could be running 240 employees at Bloomberg News in the morning and at night teaching you how to do writing for communication. The other really wonderful thing I love to talk about is that we celebrate our student work. And you all are beginning your academic and professional careers to some extent. And you do see a lot of attention that goes to graduate programs and graduate journalism students. Well, to be honest, one of your professors who retired a couple of years ago, Roger Streetmatter, he and his husband started an awards, the Streetmatter Awards, that is just for undergraduates. It's just for undergraduates to be honored, cash prizes for their work as journalism students in reporting and producing and videography and all kinds of things. Our students get published, as I talked about with Dr. Sherry Williams. I've done a couple classes myself where students have had their work shown up at NBC4. Every 4 years, for those of you who are interested in, and actually it's now more than every 4 years, for those of you who are interested in political reporting, we take a group of students. This is a combination of Lynn Perry in journalism and Molly O'Rourke in public communication and the people at the School of Public Affairs. They take students to primary states to cover the elections as they're ongoing. And this has been such an incredibly successful course. We like to call this experiential learning, that they added another course last fall for the gubernatorial race in Virginia. And this fall, they're adding a course for the midterms. So, again, you're not just talking about theory, although we want to make sure that you get the basics in ethics and law and history, but you're out there actually doing it. And our ethics professors, gosh, they dissect every, contemporary issue that comes up. I'm teaching an ethics course myself right now. And Friday, we just talked about disinformation and what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. How do we sort through what news is real or not? We might be talking about issues of Me Too movement in newsrooms and equality in newsrooms. We might be talking about issues of how to cover mass shootings. We might be talking about how to cover pretty much any event that you are talking about or thinking about right now has to do with some sort of ethical issue. And finally, I just wanted to say that we have amazing scholars on our faculty. We have, again, Dr. Sherry Williams was just honored as the National Association of Black Journalists Educator of the Year. We have Dr. John Watson, who you saw in the video. He's an honoree of the Ida B. Wells Award for making a lifetime difference in bringing journalists of color into newsrooms. We have authors like Wendy Melillo. We have Jane Hall, who just wrote a book about politics in the media. We have Jill Olmstead, who looked up one day and said there was no book about podcasting, and so she wrote a book about podcasting. We have Margot Suska, who's an emerging leader in terms of ownership of media. So I just want to wrap up by saying it is a great time to study journalism, and it's a great time to connect with the faculty here who want no more than to make sure that you succeed. And I'll finally end up on this note. We have about 6 AU alums, 6, who right now are covering right now members of the media in the White House. They all are White House correspondents, 6 right now, bumping into each other in the White House media room as alums of our journalism programs. So thank you for taking the time to visit. Loved having the opportunity to talk to you about something that you can tell I really like. And I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions as they come up.
So I'm Claudia Myers. Thank you all for being here. I want to welcome you to this very short presentation about film and media arts, and want to talk to you a little bit about what we cover and what our philosophy is about this discipline. So what we believe is that stories are important, and we hope you will come here with the attitude that you want to create media that matters. And that means different things to different people. That may be creating stories that you feel are important, either to you personally or in a larger social context. They may be important, they may matter because they push the envelope in some way artistically, or simply that they have not been told before, or because they are deeply personal to you and they are something that you are passionate about and want to learn more about and want to explore a topic or an aspect of the world through your storytelling. So we give you the tools to become impactful storytellers, and we do this by approaching it from 3 main directions, and that is media studies, production, and screenwriting. So students in our program will study a wide variety of subjects within the broader film and media arts field. And that includes directing, producing, editing, sound recording, post-production, motion graphics, lighting, photography, and of course, writing for film and television and more. Because this is such a broad umbrella, once you get into areas of specialization, you might, if you're interested in nonfiction, you might study environmental filmmaking. We have a Center for Environmental Filmmaking that is extremely active on campus. You might be interested in social documentary. We also have many student projects and faculty projects that are focused in the social impact area. You might be interested in taking a class in photojournalism or classes in photography. If you're someone who gravitates more towards fiction, you might take a class in how to direct actors, how to assess and shape a performance, or you might be interested in screenwriting, which could be film, it could be television, it could be short film writing. Producing is also an area that we offer classes in, as well as directing and dramatic production. So we also have sort of specialty classes that are more technical, such as cinematography or post-production classes, motion graphics classes, just to name a few. So I just want to highlight a couple of classes for you, just to give you a couple of examples of, I think, some of the really special offerings we have, but this is by no means exhaustive. You could take environmental filmmaking for public television, where the class collectively writes, produces, shoots, and edits a 30-minute program which will air on Maryland Public Television and other PBS stations around the Chesapeake Bay. And this is significant because not only do you have the experience of seeing a project through from start to finish, but you're also building your resume with a real world production credit. On the fiction side, you could take later on in the degree, you could take a production practicum in advanced directing, where each student is guided through a rigorous process of script development, pre-production, production, and post. And each student directs and produces their own short film, usually around 8 to 12 minutes in the 14 weeks of the semester. And we had extraordinary success with this class. As recently as last year, more than half the students had their film in festivals, and I think they've clocked in at nearly 30 official selections in various festivals, not just around the country, but internationally as well. You could take, if you're interested in screenwriting, you might take writing for episodic TV and develop a pilot script that is original to a series idea and a series pitch. So our program is designed to be flexible. You may come with an interest in nonfiction and discover that you're passionate about fiction screenwriting. You may come here with the intention of directing and may find that you love producing documentaries. So we don't have pre-assigned tracks because we recognize that your interests may evolve and warrant exploration across disciplines within the film and media arts field, and we encourage that. As a film program, we strongly believe in experiential learning, and there are several opportunities for students to hone their skills through one of many special partnerships that we have. Part of us living in, being based in DC, and part of our faculty being all working professionals that are still active in their careers in addition to being committed teachers, we have a very robust internship program. And some of the places our students have interned are the Washington Post Media Department, where we still have some alums now heading up the department, the Smithsonian, National Geographic, the National Park Service, and we've had students work at NASA and many other organizations in the area. We also have educational programs that are focused on experiential learning and outside of the university. So programs abroad like FAMU in Prague. FAMU is one of the premier film schools in Europe. It is in the Czech Republic. And students go for a semester and they work in a more conservatory-based system. They produce a short film there, which is shot on film with professional actors and crew. We also have the Australia Gold Coast program, which is relatively new, and in conjunction with the New York Film Academy there. There are also shorter experiences like the LA Intensive, which is a week-long orientation to the film and TV industry in Los Angeles. And it's a great opportunity for students to network, see firsthand what a studio set looks like, they might meet showrunners, they might meet producers, managers, and so forth. And it's a real good way of getting a sense for the industry at large, but also current trends right now as students are going to be transitioning to their professional careers. So we are flexible, we are curious, we want to support students in the aspects of filmmaking that interest and excite them. I will say that I think one of the things that sets us apart is that, as I mentioned, all our faculty are still active, practicing, filmmakers, writers, directors, producers. And we also have a genuine interest in mentoring our students. I think the tradition of mentorship is really strong at American University. And we also, I think many of us make it a practice of trying to integrate our creative work with our teaching. So for example, when I'm in production on a film, I try to involve as many students as is possible. And that is something that I think we share broadly across our division. So with that, I would like to see if anyone has any questions that I can answer.
Claudia, do you mind sharing a little bit about your journey into film and your personal experience?
Yeah, sure. So I worked in film and development for about 4 years after I graduated with a degree in comparative literature. And I absolutely loved my job. And I worked on several films, many of which did not get made. One did get made, and that was The Thin Red Line. So that was a very big movie that I had the privilege to work on. But I felt that I needed to learn the craft if I wanted to be a filmmaker myself. I really wanted to learn how to be a screenwriter. I wanted to learn some tools to become an efficient director. And so I went to film school myself. So I'm a big believer in the education that can come along with a degree in film. And after that, I wrote in film school, I wrote a script that won an award and then was optioned by some producers. I made a short film that went to Sundance. And those two things in combination allowed me to direct my first feature, which was called Kettle of Fish with Matthew Modine and Gina Gershon. And then I continued to kind of evolve. I actually did some nonfiction work. I worked for several years with the US Army doing documentary films and also educational multimedia interactive films with a kind of a training agenda, which really cemented my interest in telling certain military stories. And that work over a number of years led me to develop a fiction script called Fort Bliss, which was a feature which I directed and came out in 2014 with Michelle Monaghan and Ron Livingston and Liev Schreiber. And as I came to American University, I directed Fort Bliss while I was at American University. I then more recently directed a film called Above the Shadows, which Sumera referred to earlier, which is now on Hulu, if you're interested, with Olivia Thirlby and Alan Richson, the new Jack Reacher, and Megan Fox and Jim Gaffigan. And that was also the product of a script that evolved over many years and is a story about loss and identity, and couched in a sort of a magic realism setting. So I have, my work tends to revolve around the topics of identity and resilience. I usually am drawn to telling stories through a female lens, and I bring, a real love of both film and teaching into my classes. I personally have been teaching at AU for about 13 years. I teach primarily screenwriting and directing. I've taught other classes, but those are the classes that I tend to teach most often, and I teach different various levels of them. So I've taught the introductory screenwriting class that covers both nonfiction and fiction, called Writing for Visual Media, as well as PSA writing, which is can prove to be a very useful tool because it's a very a skill that is very in demand. And I've taught writing the short film, writing the feature, and I'm currently teaching advanced writing for film and TV, which I see as a kind of a transition to the industry as well, in terms of getting writers ready for what it's like to be a professional writer in the industry. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. And now I'm working on a new project. So yeah, that's hopefully gives you a little context.
Excellent. We have time for one more question. Can you share any advice you might have for students interested in film, whether they're coming into SOC or they're maybe in their first or second year and just thinking about film as a major? Any advice, personal, professional, as a college student, that you'd like to provide?
I think perhaps one of the things that may give students pause is if they don't know exactly what area of film they're interested in. And I just want to emphasize that our program is really flexible. I didn't know when I started film school exactly what I wanted to. I knew I wanted to learn, but I didn't really know what I was good at. And I often find that in some of my conversations with students, that's one of the best reasons, I think, to pursue a major in film and media arts, is that it is so broad, and storytelling is so fundamental to the way we sort of view and make sense of the world, that I would just say, if it's an area that you're excited about, but you're not sure if you're focused enough to pursue this major, I would just say that, breadth and range and flexibility are sort of hallmarks of the film and media arts. The fact that it encompasses, photography and just so many different skill sets that I think can be useful in many areas, just because I think storytelling is so fundamental to how we make sense of the world.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to everyone today. My name is Dina Inverso. I'm a professor in the Public Communication Division and the Division Director, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today to tell you a little bit about our program. So I guess to kick off, I want to talk a little bit about what PR and strategic communication is. So the way I always describe to students is that public communication or strategic communication is something that is really, that touches sort of every aspect of our lives, right? It influences what we buy, which political candidates we support, how we think about important issues of the day. And there's always folks behind those important ideas that are sort of helping us to communicate, to think about these issues. So let me show you a real quick video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the program and the classes that you'll be taking. All right.
We're living in a really profoundly transformative information era. There's never been a more exciting time to study communication and media and production and storytelling. To be able to bring all of that into the classroom and teach that to students and allow them to grow and push them to not be scared to try new things is the best part of being here at AU.
What we teach here is strategy. We teach people how to think. We teach people how to develop and refine their instincts in this field.
What does success look like for my students is when they look at a problem and see it from other people's eyes.
My goal here at American University, and what really motivates me, is to try to help students become educated consumers of media and also ethical producers of media.
For everybody, the ability to communicate well, verbally, in terms of writing, in terms of strategic thinking about communication, are so transferable and really kind of inherent to professional success. So I see that as the real value of our degree.
What we do in this profession, and also what we're teaching our students to do, the fact that we can influence change in such a profound way, I don't think we've ever been at that point before in history, and I'm excited to see what else can happen.
It's been wonderful to be here now for a couple of years because of the real sense of mission that I think there is among colleagues as well as among students, and the opportunity to work alongside people who are really interested in making a difference in the world and using strategic communication tools and skills in order to be able to do that.
All right. That video goes on a little bit longer, and we can certainly share that with folks afterwards if they're interested in seeing it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about five reasons why I think students should consider choosing PR and strategic communication as your major. So let's go through these real quick. So the first one is public relations and strategic communications really combines students' passions with employable practical skills. And I think that that's really important. All of our students are required to have a minor, and many have a double major. And it just really makes for a great educational experience because we're gonna teach you how to communicate efficiently, effectively, concisely, and persuasively in your degree. And then you use what you're learning in your minor or just something you're really passionate about. And it gives you a topic, an area a passion that you want to communicate strategically about. So just for a few examples, we have students that really do a lot of different diverse things with our degree. So a few years ago, I had a student who had a passion for the theater. She was a theater major, and she was also a PRSC major, and she went on to be the director of communications at a theater company. So again, she gets to combine her strategic communication skills with her passion. The same thing, I had a student a few years ago who was very passionate about fashion and the fashion industry, and she went on and now she works in communications and marketing for a very well-known designer in New York. Same thing with, if your passion is politics, students go on to work on Capitol Hill, at the White House, for presidential campaigns, senatorial campaigns, all kinds of things, because they're able to take what they learn in public relations and to do something really exciting with it. So here are just a couple other examples. Okay, number 2 is our curriculum and our classes and all the things that you're going to learn. If you're the kind of person who likes to learn by doing, I think this is a really great major for you. In virtually all of our classes, you're going to be doing hands-on type learning. So whether it's simulations in a crisis communications class, where you're given the opportunity to actually respond in a real-time simulation to a crisis, and to practice your skills at how you're communicating, whether it's, by developing a press release in real time, or doing a little bit of role playing and imagining that you're at a press conference and you're answering questions from the press, things like that. We have case studies classes, which are very discussion based, where students, you're not just sitting there and listening to the professor lecture, but you're actually reading cases and then discussing them and dissecting them. And student involvement is very important in those classes as well. In PR portfolio, you get to actually work with a real client. So for your capstone class at the sort of the end of your program, you take a PR portfolio class, and what happens is you work with a real client and you're actually going to pitch them on a strategic communications plan that you've worked on all semester in a team. And then the client actually comes back and they give you feedback and let you know sort of how they think that you did. Some really great examples of that is a few years ago, my students worked with Crayola, and they actually had their ideas implemented, which was really exciting. And they were featured in a news article where Crayola is headquartered, because I thought it was pretty cool that college students were actually suggesting communication strategy for a major corporation. So that was really exciting as well. And really in all of our classes, you'll be doing something that's hands-on, where you're actually not just learning about something, but then you get to go and try it and practice it. So that's exciting. We have a lot of diverse electives, and that sort of ties really nicely with you being able to find what you're passionate about. When it comes to picking your electives, we have a ton of different elective classes that students can choose from, so that you can learn about lots of different practice areas of public relations and strategic communications, whether it's crisis or strategic health communications or entertainment PR, or digital analytics, multicultural and international. We have lots of choices for students to kind of explore different practice areas. So if you're not sure yet exactly sort of where you fit within PR and strategic communications, that's okay. There are going to be lots of opportunities for you to kind of explore that and figure out what you might do once you graduate. And to help you sort of navigate this, because we do have so many great electives, we have concentrations. We have 6 undergraduate concentrations that we've developed. And these are really sort of areas that we feel our program has strengthened and that our faculty have significant experience in and expertise. And they're really designed just to sort of help you maybe map out how you might want to take some of your elective classes in the major. It does not go on your diploma, so that's important to know, but it's a really great marketing tool for when you're looking for your first job or for an internship. If you can kind of say that you have a concentration area, it just sort of clues a potential employer into the fact that you may have some expertise in a particular area. And here are our 6 concentration areas. We have political communications, digital communication and content and analytics, lifestyle, culture, corporate, social change and advocacy communications, and then diversity and multicultural communications. And all you need to do to sort of pick a concentration is to take 3 electives in any one of those areas. So that's all. Okay, recent the faculty. And I guess I'm a little biased as a faculty member myself, but also as an alum, I can speak to, you know, really the impressiveness of the faculty. We have 19 full-time faculty members who are experts in their field in everything from political communication to health communication, to multicultural. They bring all kinds of amazing opportunities into the classroom. They use their networks to bring in really impressive guest speakers. And because they all have professional experience and are still active in the field, you're also learning sort of, and they're bringing in examples of things that they're doing right now into the classroom so that it's very up to date and exciting. We also have an amazing list of adjunct faculty that include a renowned presidential historian, presidential speechwriters, executive vice presidents at some of the major PR firms. So you really are learning from the best in the business. Okay, number 4 are all of the exciting outside opportunities that are beyond the classroom that our students have the ability to take advantage of. And this is beyond our, you know, strong internship program, but we have partnerships with MWWPR, United Entertainment Group, Meltwater, that all provide opportunities for students to gain hands-on real-world experience. We have things like the LA Intensive Program and the 2-day site visit to New York, which students always find really valuable. And then we have a very active PRSSA chapter that is also award-winning. The chapter has won many awards over the years, and we always have at least a handful of students who are part of that win awards and are recognized for their work as well. And then the last are just you know, the great thing about our program is that when our students graduate, they are truly prepared to have a successful career in whichever sort of area of strategic communications that they choose. You know, students are very employable, which is important. And we have a really strong network of alumni that I think is really helpful. One of the great things that we have is there's a private LinkedIn group for our students and our alumni. And it's a really great place for employers to post job postings, either for internships or for jobs, where you sort of get that information first. And it's a great networking tool. There's over 2,000 students and alumni currently as part of that page, and it really is a great resource. And I mentioned before that we have students that are literally anywhere and everywhere that you can possibly imagine. You know, here is just a sample of where some of our students end up. And again, this is great, not only because it shows the diversity and sort of what they're able to do with our degree, but it's also fantastic because it means that we have alumni in all of these places. So if you think you might be interested in working at one of the top PR firms, you know, we have folks at all of the top PR firms in DC and beyond, in New York and Chicago. We have folks that have ended up at Nestle's, at NBC Universal, Disney Group, National Geographic. From nonprofits, you know, we have folks that work at Smithsonian, Kennedy Center, Amazon Foundation, American Red Cross, the UN Foundation, Mercy Corps, and the same with government organizations, you know, working in the US House of Representatives, in the Senate, the DC Police Department, US Department of Transportation, and then internationally, we have folks that work at embassies around the world. So that's it for me now, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have, and I hope you'll consider public relations and strategic communications as your major.
All right, thank you. So welcome to the photography breakout room. I am going to screen share and I've got a little PowerPoint and a video that we can watch. Okay, so why you might want to be a photo major. Just to give you some statistics of why photography is important and talk a little bit about the importance of becoming a photo major. So 95 million photographs are uploaded to Instagram every day. 350 million photographs are uploaded to Facebook, and 400 million snaps are shared each day on Snapchat. Photography plays an important role in many people's lives. It connects us with cultures, with history, the past, our past. It can be a record of our time, but also can be a mode of artistic expression. It allows us to bear witness to the world around us. It allows us to have access to places we may never get to. Certainly very important right now, given what's going on in the world. Make sure that we have a record of this history. Another aspect of why this major matters is to gain a deeper understanding about the images we see. I would encourage you all to write a photo diary. You know, walk around one day and notice how many images you're inundated with, and what does that mean, and how do you interpret those, and how do you digest that kind of information. We are inundated with imagery as we see, and we need to be able to understand this visual language. So photography is a new major. We just began this right before the pandemic. It's a collaboration between the College of Arts and Sciences, the Studio Art Department specifically, and the SOC Film and Media Arts. It's an interdisciplinary approach. We teach both analog and digital. We start you on film and in the darkroom, and then we move you to the digital photography end. It allows, because we are so interdisciplinary in this approach, we allow anybody, if they have an interest in photography, to explore that. So if whether you wanted to be a fine art photographer or a journalist or a documentarian or a commercial photographer, we have classes for all of these. We really encourage that you have a second major or a minor, and there are plenty that I can help navigate and advise with that might be good, especially business majors if you are interested in opening up your own studio. We want you to be familiar with the aesthetics, the historical and the conceptual work that is done around photography. We have 2 study abroad program options, one in Prague through the Film and Media Arts program, and then the other through the College of Arts and Sciences in Berlin. And so you can see a little bit of that. Some of our learning objectives. We have a technical proficiency in chemical and digital photography. We want you to be current on the latest photographic tools and trends. We want you to understand the various camera formats, whether it's 35 millimeter, the DSLRs, medium and large format. We want you to have a knowledge of both black and white and color photography. We want you to have a history. We want you to know the history and theory of photography. And we want you to have an understanding about design principles, lighting, and exposure. We also want you to be able to work in a variety of forms in photography, whether it be in artistic expression, photojournalism, documentary, or commercial photography. So you get a little bit of everything. So if you come in and say, well, I know I'm really interested in engaging in photography, but I'm not quite sure what angle, we'll have you take courses in all these things so that you can explore and see what might be the right fit for you. Okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are peppered throughout our curriculum and throughout the major. Not only do we talk about these issues in our classes, especially the history of photography class, and some of the other more personal artistic expression courses like the fine art photography, we explore issues like ethics and representation in our journalism classes. We're constantly bringing in diverse artists to campus like Clifford Owens, Jess Dugan, Teju Cole, who has the On Photography column at the New York Times. So we work with other divisions and other departments around campus to bring some of these great artists to speak to you all. And we also work with the student groups like the Photo Collective to do portfolio reviews and lectures through there. We work with our advising office on programmings that deal with issues of race in our field, and we bring in local photographers like Sunny Mason to speak about their experiences. Our partnership with the AU Photo Collective allows us to have diverse photographers do portfolio reviews and lectures as well. So I just wanted to highlight some of the work that our alum have done. Because we're just recently a major, this is work done by a student who graduated under the Film and Media Arts division, but if we had the photo major, would most definitely be a photography major. Anna Moneymaker's images you might have seen on the cover of the New York Times and of the cleaning crew helping to disinfect the Capitol after each session. Caitlin Ox was also a New York Times Year in Photo image winner. In the arts, one of my former students, Stephen, blanking on his name, was just chosen, Stephen Baboon was just chosen for the Louisiana Biennial, the Year in Art. Our adjuncts and our professors who teach in the photo department are all working photographers, and they are reviewed constantly in both the Washington Post and the city paper. Right now, one of our current photography adjuncts, Chan Chow, has an exhibition at the Katzen Museum, which we would encourage you to see. Once a year in November, a few years back, DC had established a photo week in November, where everything in the universe in DC would be focused and concentrating on photography. And so we've taken that, and every year in November, we a bunch of us exhibit at the Studio Gallery down in DC, and you can see by some of the reviews here. I wanted to also share a little video about our space. So we moved into new locations just recently, right before the pandemic started. And here's a little tour of our brand new darkroom and media space. Let me. So that's a little bit about the photography program and the degree. And, because we are new, we are very excited. We're a small major and we have.
Hello,
yes.
and welcome to Films Across Borders, Stories in a Changing World. I'm Nada Malouf.
Sorry,
Chief
that's the
Advancement
next video
Officer
that's
in the-
playing. Sorry about that. So because we're a small major, we really work hands-on with our students. There's really only 2 of us that are full-time faculty members. And if there is a course that you want to study or something that's not on the books, we're very easily able to adapt to that. We have our undergraduate students are one of the few students to be able to become teaching assistants during their time with us if they work in our labs. If you volunteer and work with us in our labs, then you have access to the darkroom space and cameras and access to equipment when we are not teaching a class, which is a real plus. And that's about all I have. And I'm happy to answer any questions in the big breakout room.
Okay, it looks like everybody's back in the main room, and we will start with a few questions for some of the faculty. So let's see. For journalism, Amy, would you mind talking about what kinds of classes students will take in the curriculum real quick?
Sure, Tara, thank you for bringing that question to my attention. The classes are amazing. I mean, but basically we got to get you to learn the basics first. So we're going to teach you ethics, and we're going to teach you law, and we're going to teach you how to write, and we're going to teach you how to report. And as your academic career goes deeper, you're going to leave the campus more. You're going to go into the communities, and then you're going to go probably up to Capitol Hill and into some of the agencies and elsewhere to do your reporting. You're going to learn to report using all the different platforms. You're going to learn how to report using all the different equipment. Some of you will be focusing, as I said earlier, on broadcast journalism. Some of you will focus on audio or podcasting. Some of you will be focusing on all the other digital ends having to do with long form narrative. A lot of you are going to be driven by what is investigative journalism, but you're going to get the basics, and then you're going to kind of follow more deeply into your tracks. It's very experiential. It is a very experiential program. So one year, one of the professors decided that the students should have some on the ground feeling about what it meant to be in Puerto Rico a year after the hurricane, and took a group of students there. As I mentioned earlier, we've taken students into the primary states. We do this with the division, my colleagues in the public communication division, and in the School of Public Affairs, we take students on the ground to political primary states, to gubernatorial hotbed states. To this fall, we're going to take people out to report on what's happening in the midterms. So I would think of it as you learn how to write, you learn how to think, you learn how to learn the ethics, you learn the law, you learn how to produce, and then we send you out and you do all of that to wind up at the end with a capstone project that shows off everything that you've just learned.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, next question. I'll throw over to you, Claudia, for film. How quickly can I get access to the film equipment? Common question. And can I keep my own content?
Thank you for the question. So yeah, this is a question that is on a number of students' mind, understandably. And the answer to how soon will you get your hands on film equipment is the first year. It could be fall or spring. That depends a little bit on how you choose to organize your schedule. So visual literacy would be the first class where students would have a chance to use the equipment. It would probably be the Sony Z150. These are cameras and tripods and so forth. The next class would be Film and Video Production 1, which is a class that students could take as early as the spring of their first year or the fall of their second. And this is the first sort of production course that students would have access to a Sony FS5 and basically continue to make content in any number of classes after that, too numerous to name, depending if production is a strong interest of yours. We certainly have production classes that run the gamut from documentary production, fiction productions, television production, and so forth. So there are many, many opportunities starting as early as the first year and the first semester.
Great, thank you. Can you speak at all to the second part about keeping my own content?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry, I missed that one. So the answer is the content is yours. The scripts you write, the films you make, they are yours to use and distribute as you see fit. We have students submitting work routinely to festivals and competitions, and this becomes part of your larger portfolio as you get more experience and as you venture into the industry. All the content, all the creative work you create individually is yours, unless it's part of a larger project that is commissioned, for example.
Great, thank you, thank you. All right, so for communication studies, Adrienne, I heard this is a research-based program. Could you tell me more about what that means and what I will be researching?
Sure. One of the things that I think is probably true across the school, but is something that we really focus on in comm studies, is about critical thinking skills and ensuring that you as a student are going to be sent out into the world to be a critical thinker. And one of the best ways that we know to do that is to have you have some experience in research. And you can see in today's world is awash in dis and misinformation. And so we know quality information is really important. So we try to encourage students to think creatively, and but also to think sort of strategically in our research-based classes. So they're teaching you skills about how to, it is, some of the stuff is like the less fun things oftentimes, but it's really to get you excited to think about contributing to this sort of intellectual growth of this field, and to thinking about how you can affect change through the things that you find. So students research all kinds of things. I am actually teaching the capstone course right now. And in that class, students work on a research project. There are students doing work around COVID misinformation on Twitter. There are students doing work around sports communication and sort of the ways in which, schools, different communities express fandom. There's kind of work being done in one student's doing some work on, sort of representation on on Issa Rae's show Insecure. So research, for us is really, it can be pretty broadly defined, but we're interested in sort of setting people up to be critical thinkers in the world of communication, and to be really good speakers, writers, and visual communicators. And that's like sort of the pillars of what we do. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That helps a lot. So for public relations question, do I have to pursue a concentration? Also, is it on you already answered this in the other room, but is it on my diploma? And can you share a little bit more about those and maybe how they came to be?
Sure. So basically the concentrations were sort of developed as a way to help students select their electives as like a tool to help kind of focus them, but it's also really meant to help students when they graduate as a marketing tool to position themselves as experts in a particular area. So it does not go on your diploma. It is 100% voluntary. Some students really like the concentrations and feel like they're a really valuable tool. Other students, may not be be as focused yet and decide that they really want to take classes, their elective classes across a bunch of different areas, and they use it as an opportunity to say, gosh, I don't really know if I want to do crisis comm or whether I want to do strategic health communications or, advocacy work, and I'm not sure. So I'm going to take electives in different areas to explore. So, they can be used as students as a tool, and I think they're valuable, but they're not required. And, in the last session, we did show the slide that showed all the concentrations, and it's on the website as well. So if students have more specific questions about any one concentration or the other, I'm always happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you, thank you. Last question, well, not last, a couple more here, but for photo, Lena, can you talk about where students have gone on to do work with a photo degree? How does it?
Sure. So we're a new major, so we haven't had too many who have graduated with the photo degree, but former students who have graduated under the Film and Media Arts umbrella, who really, if we had this photo degree, would have come through with us. One in particular that stands out as a recent alum, she graduated maybe 2 years ago at this point, Anna Moneymaker. She started working for the Washington Post and as a freelancer for the Washington Post, the New York Times. Her photographs have been received in the New York Times best images of the year, so you'll see her images published there. One in particular that stands out was that she photographed the cleaning crew who was disinfecting during COVID the Capitol after each meeting place. And so that was one photograph that stood out. She now is got a full-time job as a staff photographer for Getty. So we're incredibly proud of her. Another one of my former students, just to sort of speak about the spectrum of what kind of work you can do in photography, he's gone on to get his master's degree in more fine art photography and performance and installation. And he just let me know that his work, Stephen Baboon, he's just been accepted as part of the Louisiana's biennial. So, and again, he probably only graduated about 3 or 4 years ago. So you can see that that we have student success, even though we're just starting and moving.
That's great. It's very exciting. A little advising question for Jessie. I'll throw this to Jessie. I want to study abroad. How do I do this in school communication?
A great question. So there's a bit of a process to go study abroad, which is a great opportunity that a lot of SOC students end up taking. But first and foremost, what's most important is planning, right? And planning with your academic advisor on where you would like to go, what classes you can take abroad, how they come back to AU. And so the first thing is planning. When it comes to when you're deciding where to go abroad, I always recommend students talk to the AU Broad office as well, as they're the experts in the programs. But it's important to think about, do you want to go for your specific program? For example, a lot of film students go to Prague to do a CET film program. I know a lot of journalism students take the opportunity to go to a program in Copenhagen, DIS, and there are plenty of opportunities like that that are more specific to SOC majors, but you could also, stay abroad for the experience. You could do it for your second major or your minor as well. But I think the biggest thing when you're thinking about it is to do planning. Think about it early in your academic career and not when you're a second semester senior and you want to go last chance. And yeah, I would say it's very possible to plan this with your academic advisor.
Great, thank you, thank you. And we're going to do one more advising question, then we're going to do a couple that are just broader, sort of for everybody to popcorn in and answer. But Kylie, would you mind talking just for a little bit about internships? How do students do that in the School of Communication?
So we have a lot of internships available for students here in the School of Communication. Students have options to do internships for credit. So while also gaining valuable experience towards post-college life, you can also receive credit for that for school. There's also paid internship opportunities as well as tons just around the DC metro area to give you real hands-on world experience.
All right, great, thank you. So one question just to pose to everybody, if you have feedback, it's interesting to sort of hear as we live in Washington, DC, and so much happens here, how each division sort of works with students or supports students around an event. So a big event somewhat recently, I guess a little over a year ago now, would have been the January 6th. So I'm thinking about that event at the Capitol, you know, how does each division talk about that, work with it, assist students, and how are these events, and let's use just that one maybe, or if there's a different one that's related politically or something that you did more work around, it'd be great to hear how this division brings that directly into the classroom.
I can take a crack at that, Tara. I'm speaking for journalism, and what I really like about this exercise is for the students, it really helps you think about the differentiation about how each division and student body embraces the professions and the theory courses that you're talking about. For journalism, we look at January 6th initially as a news event. How do we cover it? Who's covering it? What's ethical about the coverage? Is the coverage being fair? We'll use the word fair more than we would use balanced, because balanced is a kind of a politically challenged word right now. We'll talk about how people are there. Are they safe? How people handle trauma, how people handle trauma and safety during the event. So basically it's all hands on deck. How is an event like that covered? What are the follow-ups? What are the issues? And then we move into the investigative part. What happened that led to this event in the first place? Were all the people in place that needed to? Was the communication good? And then, of course, we'll obviously talk about all the political implications. But for journalism, it's covering it, getting the news out to the public, getting the most accurate perspectives out to the public, trying as much as possible not to do it from an opinion perspective, but from a news and accuracy reporting perspective.
All right, I'll jump in here. So public relations and strategic communications is kind of like the opposite side of the journalism coin. So we would be the folks who would be working in organizations, trying to communicate and to sort of influence how people think about January 6th, right? So the StratCom folks are helping with messaging behind the scenes for the people who are that the journalists are interviewing, right? The lawmakers that were there, people in organizations that were involved, maybe with the Capitol Police, for example, and sort of getting their messaging out about how they were handling that situation. So that's really sort of like the strategic communication behind about it. And it's all about putting together effective messaging, not just in terms of words, but picking the right platform, picking the right imagery that supports this. I just think about Ukraine and with the Ukrainian president, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So what is he doing? He's taking control and he's creating very simple videos that he's pushing out online that's showing him that he's still in Ukraine, but in front of, important landmarks. So it's, that's the strategic communication as someone that's advising him saying, here's what you have to get out there in terms of messaging. This is what people need to hear. And this is how we want to communicate. So that's what PR and StratCom is all about.
So I can kind of take it on a little bit for photo and a little for film and media arts, since they're pretty related. I mean, we take a lot of what Amy said in journalism and we apply that to the photojournalism. But then we also have personal expression. And so I actually had a thesis student work on a project, a feature-long doc about practices, the journalistic practices for communities of color or other diverse groups that may not feel safe in reporting in the same ways, the traditional ways that journalists have, or they might not actually have the access to report in those same ways. So this student was doing a documentary was filming, but then talked about safe practices in creating a community of journalists who aren't published by the big papers and things like that, and how they report for their own community. And so safety precautions and practices. We may have a student, we have certainly in the photojournalism classes and the documentary classes, we have students who will go and report on all the protests. That's one of the great things about living in DC is we're here to witness it all. Like, we get to be here for that part. And we try to talk to them, not just about the fact that they're recording history and they're documenting history, but what are the aesthetic choices behind that, right? So in film and media arts, we're saying, well, if you photograph people holding up signs, are the signs telling the story or are the emotions telling the story behind it? So what are the ways that we can get them to have really compelling images that tell the story without necessarily words in that case? And then they may be doing more experimental pieces on topics like war in general, and where they may be taking mashups of footage from the Ukraine and what happened in the insurrection and other places, and combining them and editing them together to create a larger sort of feeling or piece about what war means to them. So I think there's just a lot of avenues for taking these, like the same events, and handling it in such a variety of viewpoints.
I can chime in on comm studies. So communication studies, I would say, is most interested in sort of the causes, the root things that would lead up to the insurrection. In particular, the ways in which technological platforms sort of have enabled and radicalized individuals into certain actions, and also the counter actions that have happened. So the activists protesting against, kind of the insurrection as well. So we would be most interested in trying to suss out sort of the ways in which communities are about the whole events online, but also sort of how do platforms themselves, like Facebook, like Twitter, like Reddit, sort of kind of tacitly allow some of this, radical, radical right-wing politics to happen, and sort of ask the questions about, like, sort of what is ethical about that, and whether or not we have a responsibility, like sort of what is the policy response to something like that. And so those are the kinds of questions we would be sort of digging at the events from, sort of both historically, but as it's happening, to try to understand sort of more of the root causes as well.
Tara, I just want to add one thing, because anyone here would want to take all these classes and major in all of these things. It just sounds amazing. And what I think students need to know is that we do have classes that are electives that they can take in different divisions. And so particularly in the first course that everybody takes, called Understanding Media, you get a landscape of what all of these different fields do. And then you can pick which area that you want to go into. But we all have electives, and everybody can take courses in different areas so they can get the big picture.
That's right. That's great. Thank you for adding that piece on. We have some electives where students, even from other schools, can come in and influence each other's thinking and share the experience, like the programs you were talking about earlier with the midterms and things like that. That's wonderful. I think that we will begin to wrap up, unless anybody has anything else that they want to, that's was brought up in the Q&A. I do want to just mention that the School of Communication has one more major, which isn't exactly represented, but is very much represented. Their Foreign Language and Communication Media major. This is a major that combines sort of the minor with one of the divisions. All of the divisions here are available concentrations, and with a language. So you would do 18 credits in a language and 27 credits in a concentration, and that would be the major in and of itself. And so each division represented here is a part of that programming. And then, of course, like many schools around campus, we also have a minor, which I would say is very much styled in the electives and the communication studies sort of ideas and thought-provoking in the world of communication. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope that our major exploration event has helped you explore the School of Communication and all of the different divisions. And thank you very much to all the divisions for joining us, and good luck with your journey.